Hey guys, I'm gonna work on filling my new Renaissance or my new mini palette, porcelain palette by Stephanie Law. This was a Kickstarter campaign that she had. And this is what the tin looks like. It comes with little felt pieces. And some artwork. And then she has these little charts that you can paint, but I made a little stencil. Hey Lisa, it's so good to see you. Thanks for coming in. So I made this stencil and then used watercolor paper to try out my different colors. I've been kind of auditioning lots of different ones. There's another one with different colors. And then here are all the tubes that I decided I would use. So I'm going on a trip on Friday, and so I don't know. The Renaissance paints are pretty juicy. So, hey, Rosemary. It's good to see you again. So yeah, the paints are pretty juicy, so I don't know for sure that it will set up. I think they might, just because the wells are so shallow and small, but I thought it would be fun to try. And Lisa and Rosemary, please let me know if there's any issues with my sound or if you're struggling to see anything. Lisa, this was a Kickstarter campaign that Stephanie Law started. She is an artist. She's written some books, and she paints a lot on Instagram, and she also has a Patreon or patron feed. But she started it, and I think she is outsourcing it now. I think this iteration is sold out. I think you could always ask and find out for sure. But excuse me. Sorry about that. But I think she's using Etcher, I think it's ECHR, which is a company that does sort of plein air painting supplies. So I think there will be more that's coming, but for right now, for right now, these are the ones that have been sold. So I wanted to use all Renaissance paints. Hey, Gail. Thanks for coming in. And it's hard. It's hard. I mean, it's crazy because, in a piece this size, you can get there are 37 wells. And there are 70 paints in the Renaissance line. And so it was a little bit, it's a silly thing, but it was a little challenging to come up with what I wanted. And I think I like what I have. If I can just find my cheat sheet. I was debating between the dishes are ceramic. Yeah, this is ceramic too. And she includes these little pieces of felt that will separate the two. So like when you're traveling with them, you have kind of a buffer. But I've lost my cheat sheet. Maybe I stuck it in here. I did. So yeah, it comes with, I think, 3 little pieces of felt that will buffer them in the tin, and it's a good fit. I mean, they're not going to rattle around much at all. And it screws on, and you can hear it a little bit, but it doesn't, like up and down, it doesn't really sound at all. And side to side just a little bit, but it feels really, really secure. I'd attach to the bottom. Oh, the felt you would, Gail? You would attach the felt to the bottom of each dish. It's a good idea rather than have them loose. That's a really great idea. So, and this is, you may see in my shop, I have others. I have another stencil, although I think it's sold out right now, of a swatch template. But I went ahead. She has on some, I can't remember which website it was of hers, where she has a download of this. And so I just used that and traced it and cut it out so that I could use my regular paper, which I like, which is bee cotton paper, which is my favorite. Well, probably my favorite is Arches, but the thing about bee cotton is it's inexpensive enough that I don't feel like I have to be precious with it. So I have my tubes separated. If you look, there are these kind of pie shapes. Can you see that? See how there's like a pie? And so each of these sections are a pie, just so that I wouldn't get confused when I get to fill, because I kind of get the impression that I would think that it would be challenging to get paint out of here if you wanted to switch it out to another color. So I was trying to really be careful with it. And I was debating between having white in the center versus having like a Naples, kind of a Naples yellow deep, which was this option in the center. But I decided that white would be more versatile, even though I don't use white very often. So I swapped that out. So here we go. Just a second. So this is titanium white. And I'm going to put this in the center. I'm trying to get it so that you can see. And I think what I'm going to do is get a little straight pin. But it's already, you can see it's already kind of leveling out. I just think Renesans paints, because of the honey content, are going to be really great for filling this. Let me just get a straight pin though. Can you see that? I don't know where I heard this trick, but somebody mentioned something about, they said that they do this when they flood cookies, that they use a straight pin to get it where they want it. I don't know. I might be able to get even more. You would, Rosemary, you would go for white. Yeah, I just think it's going to be a little more versatile. See if I can get a tiny bit more in there. You don't want to overfill it because it's going to have things on top of it. And what I thought I would do with my template is cover it in plastic, and then that way it can go on top on both sides, and it can go on top and not get messy. Hi, Lynn. Thanks for joining. This was kind of an impromptu. I hadn't scheduled it, and I'm still really, this is my third stream ever, so I feel like I'm still really new, but I really wanted to get this filled so that it could be setting up. And I thought it would be really helpful for people maybe to see the process. I'm just kind of cleaning up those edges. Okay, so white is done. So next we have, I'm going to start with the yellows. So the next one I have is number 7, which is lemon yellow, and that's right here. And I'm just going to get a little grippy for these. So this is lemon yellow. The one thing I do really like about these paints is that because the labels have the swatches on them, it's really easy for me to see what color is what. Yes, Lynn, it is the Stephanie Law palette. And these wells are just so tiny. I think I'm going to move this to the center, though, so that you guys can see maybe a little better. Let me see about zooming in. Let me just try something really quick and see if I can open up my Logitech software. I would cut a circle back. Oh, that's a good idea. Is that better? So that zoomed in a little bit. Oh, but it's got that autofocus. Let me see if anti-flicker. We're going to turn autofocus off and see if that... I get so nauseous when I watch streams where the camera is going in and out a lot. So let me know if this is okay for you guys. But yeah, Rosemary, you mentioned baking paper on the would you put the baking paper on the back of the watercolor of the swatch? Is that what you're saying? You would put baking paper? Because what I was thinking I would do is use either packing tape or laminate. But baking paper would work too. Here we have lemon yellow, and I'm just kind of popping those bubbles. See if I can get a little bit more. Boy, it sure doesn't take much paint to fill these wells. There we go. Oh my gosh, I love how this is filling. Love it so much. It is so tiny. I mean, I think it's really hard online to get sort of an understanding, but like even if you just look at what it looks like next to a small paint tube, you can see that it's really it's really small. So next I'm trying transparent yellow. On top of the paints when dry. Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea, Rosemary. Rosemary was one of 2 of the first people to ever watch my stream. She was so nice and encouraging to me. It's always nice to see her back. I love how these paints get leveled out. That one might be too full. I'm not sure. Not sure how to get paint back in a tube. Let me think about that for a minute. That's a lot of paint. Let me see if I can grab a tool. Hang on. I have a tiny little mini spatula that I think I just want to scoop some of that out. And put back in the tube. I think that's going to be better. They don't, Lynn, they don't really get sticky. Like I know they really do get hard. I don't know if they will harden up in time for my trip. That kind of remains to be seen. But they really do get firm. Unlike like M. Graham. M. Graham gets set up, but it still kind of remains sticky. Whereas these, I'm hoping that because the wells are so small that they will that they'll firm up quickly. I'm probably going to set them in front of a fan or maybe even put them on my dehumidifier just to try to speed it up. Thanks, Rosemary. I was just going to say. Oh, yeah, Jacqueline, it is. It's so fun to see how it gets kind of all smooth. It's really, I think it's fairly unique, and I think it's probably because of the honey content. I'm sorry about my cough. Okay, so next we have number 12, which is this color that I'm doing. And this is transparent gold ochre. Let me just see. I'm sorry, I'm not very quick at this. But it's hard to be careful and fast. So that's transparent gold ochre. Oh, that's okay, Gail. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Have a good day. Next, we have Indian yellow, which is this one on the color wheel. Tissue. The next one we have is Cadmium Red Pale, which is this tube. And that is this color, which it's called Cadmium Red Pale, but it really looks orangish. And the next one we have is Scarlet Red. This is my husband who's coming in.
Sorry.
So the next one we have is Scarlet Red. He's checking in. My husband works from home, which is awesome because then we get to have lunch together, and he works a lot of hours, but it doesn't feel so bad because he's at home. And there's the red. This is Scarlet Red, which is one of my favorite colors. I use it a lot. I use, for a split primary, if I were only using 2 reds, I would use Scarlet Red and Quinacridone Red, which is similar to a quinacridone rose. So we finished that pie, and we're just going to move on to the next pie, which is this one. So next we have 19, which is Cadmium Red Medium, which is this one on the top. Because of the honey content on these, sometimes the lids are a little hard to open. So I use a little piece of shelf liner. Hey, Shauna. Thanks for coming by. So we're just going to put that right here. I will, when this gets all dried up, I will, if I'm taking them, I will post a picture of it on Instagram, maybe a before and after, so you can see what it looks like once they're dried in. So next we have number 20, which is Cadmium Red Deep, which is a really dark color. I'm going to get a baby wipe for my hands. Okay, so the next color is Permanent Carmine. And that is this color. It's number 21. Do you have a list of must-have recommended colors in the tubes? Some you just can't live without. I think that's an excellent question, Jacqueline. It took me a long time to kind of limit to 37, which is how many this palette will hold. I also have, you're asking about the tubes, because I also have a limited palette that I made for the pans. I would have to think about it. But I think it would be a really interesting exercise to come up with like a limited palette of 6 and a limited palette of 12 and a limited palette of 18, and so on. I would say, the Quin red and the Scarlet red would be definites. I think you could probably get by with one yellow, and I would probably make it this number 11 transparent yellow, which looks really kind of ugly and brown. But when you paint it out, it's actually quite a nice color. It's this color right here. So it doesn't look like it does in the pan. So I would say maybe number 11, transparent yellow, number, was it 18? Which is Scarlet red, number 23, which is Quin red. So that's kind of a warm and a cool red. And then within blues, I would do an ultramarine blue and probably the Helio Cerulean, which is actually a phthalo blue, as like a split primary palette. Next we have that 21. I'm getting mixed up. Hang on just a second. 21 was Permanent Carmine. 23, which is the one we're doing right now, is Quin red. Which I don't know if you guys were able to watch the review that Steve Mitchell did on Mind of Watercolor. It was really encouraging, and but he said that he thought the Quin red was more of a Quin rose, and because it's PV19, and I would agree with that. But it would definitely make my short list. In fact, it would make my number, like if I had a palette of 3, it would be in my palette of 3. It's probably one of my biggest sellers. That one may be a little, I may need to take some of that out. You like gamboge? I like gamboge a lot. The closest that we have to gamboge in the tube would be this Indian yellow, Shauna. We have in the tube, we have a color called gamboge, but I don't think it really looks like a true gamboge. When you hear me tapping, what I'm doing is I'm tapping down the tube so that the paint goes back in there. I don't know if you can see that. And then I just want to clean up this edge. This little spatula thing is pretty handy. Oh, Rosemary, you and Shauna have the same questions. Those are great questions. I was just saying that I would have to think about it. to come up with 12. I think it would be a really good exercise. Maybe I'll do a stream on that with finding a limited palette. But for split primaries, I would do probably a lemon yellow and a transparent yellow. Or if you wanted to just do, you could probably get by with just one yellow. And then I would do a scarlet red and a quin red, which is actually kind of a rose color. And then I would do an ultramarine blue and a heliocerulean to get 6. And then from there, I would probably add a Payne's gray and a burnt umber and maybe a permanent green. But I would have to, one of the things that was really fun about this palette was it forced me to really look at what colors I really want. Because normally I paint with, because I sell, because I have all of these paints, I paint with the whole line. And so normally I paint with these palettes. I'll get them real quick. So I have my paints set up in these palettes. And so normally what I do is I have like 36 in here. And then I can just nest them together. And I have the others here. So I can't really get low enough for you to see them all. So having a limited palette, I tend not to do because, I have them all and it's in a pretty small footprint. But because I wanted to put them in here, I had to limit. And it was really I have all kinds of different, let me see if I can find that other sheet that I did. Well, not finding it at the moment, but you can see here where I have lots of different ideas of where I was trying to come up with them. If you gently squeeze the tube on either side. Yes, yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to do a little bit with tapping it. But you're right. If you squeeze it on either side, the same thing happens. And it's really a great, I really like being able to do that and have it suck back in, because then the paint isn't getting around the threads of the tube. Here, you can see it's all gone right back into see how clean the threads are. They're not all that way, but this one in particular is. Hey, Patty. Wow, I certainly didn't expect you to be able to sneak in. Patty, you have this same palette, right? Oh, I just put number 24 back, and that was the one that I was actually going to next. So next we have purple magenta, and that's this one right here. Oh, Jan, thank you so much. Remind me, did you buy the pans or the tubes from me? So, oh, did you see that? Did you see how it just kind of leveled out? I just think that's the coolest thing. Now, this one, I want just a little bit more, and I don't know how easy that's going to be for me to get a little. It's almost like an all or nothing. I'm just going to use my straight pen and see if I can coax a little bit more in there. Well, not too bad. You got the pans, both sets. I love the pans, Jan. That was how I started. I actually only started selling the tubes in September, but have had the pans. Well, really not that much longer, but the pans were what really were compelling to me. But one thing I do want to mention, and I did put this on my Etsy store, is that I don't find the tubes and the pans to be interchangeable. They are compatible, like you can paint with tube paints and pan paints, but I would not recommend refilling pans with tube paints. I mentioned this to Patty. Patty was saying that mine are filling up so neatly and hers were tricky. The Daniel Smith are definitely, I love Daniel Smith paints, Patty, but they definitely are stickier. And some of them, come out really dry. I think it's because these have honey in them that make them so smooth. I have a confession. I bought a second one of these, which I know is ridiculous, but the second one of these palettes because I wanted one to be just Renaissance. And then, I think I've shared with you guys, I've never met a watercolor I didn't like. And so I want the other one to be other paints, non-Renaissance paints. So that's kind of why I bought two. Jan, you said, I figured you could try the colors in the pans to see which colors you like. Yeah, I think the pans, more is right. Yeah, definitely, Patty. I think the pans are, you can get an idea of the colors, but honestly, they're not, like I said, I wouldn't refill the pans with tube paints. I was talking to Patty about this because she loved the Payne's Gray that she got in the pan and was going to buy a tube of it. And I swatched it out and it looks different. It just really does. And so she ended up, getting another pan instead to replace it. So I would go that route. And I would just look at them as different watercolors. I hope that helps. I know it's kind of, I actually have an email with the owners to try to find out kind of why that is, because I think it is confusing to customers that they're the same brand and they're named the same thing, but they really do paint out differently. And let me see if I can find my swatches. More is right, Patty. Okay, so if you look, what I've done is taken, and on my screen this looks backwards, so I hope it's not backwards for you. It is unusual, Jan, and I don't really understand it. I know that the formula is different. I know that the pans are drier than the tubes. They're much they're not nearly as kind of runny, for lack of a better word. The tubes do set up, but even when they set up glossier. So I'll show you the difference side by side. So these are my pan sets. And you can see, I'm trying to tilt it. Some of them look quite dry. They don't, I mean, they're a little underwhelming in terms of visually. They don't look, I love them. I think they're amazing paints. But if you were just to look at them, I think they look a little dry. Whereas these are completely set up. But they're still like my finger, you can see I'm touching, but I'm not getting any on my finger. They're not tacky at all, but they're definitely glossier. Does that make sense? No problem, Patty. Come in when you can. It's great to see you. I'm just catching up on. Yes, I think Steve's review was really helpful with the differences. So anyway, I have 2 sheets here of the differences, and you can see, for example, the cadmium orange, same pigment, same name. They paint out very differently. Again, carmine, same thing. Indigo, huge difference. And then when we get into the next page, golden green looks different. Olive green looks different. Sap green, huge. Burnt umber or burnt sienna. So for that reason, I just can't recommend. I just can't recommend that customers refill their paints. I mean, maybe some people maybe don't care, but I care. It would bother me. So. Lynn, you're right. Steve did a great job. You know what was so funny about that is that I'd had a customer talk to me about this. And so I went and worked on this and worked on these swatches so that I would have a side by side of them for my information and for customers' information, and to be able to send to the company, because their first language isn't English. They're an amazing company and they're awesome. But I wanted to really clearly communicate what it was that I was trying to mention about the differences. And then I watched Steve's video and he saw the same thing. So it was really, I was so thankful that I had kind of figured that out maybe a few hours or days before Steve did, so that I wasn't thrown by what he did, by what he said. But I thought his review was outstanding. I'm so thankful for him. I feel like he's become a friend, as so many of you guys have become. So it's been really wonderful. But I was really happy to see that he addressed that issue, because I'm addressing it on Etsy, and I'm planning to post photos of those swatches so that my customers know. But I just really want to be transparent with my customers so that they know what they're getting. Okay, so next we have manganese violet, which is one of my favorite colors. I love this color. It granulates so beautifully. I don't know if you can see the granulation there, but oh my goodness, it's such a beautiful color. And this is a single pigment, I think. I say that and now I question it. Yes, it's PV16. Whoa. We got a squirter here. Okay, so now I'm going to do Jan's trick and squeeze on the sides. Jan, you'll have to tell me what you think of it. I thought it was a great video and it seemed very balanced to me. But oh my goodness, just having somebody like Steve, and Lindsay too, and Patty, I mean, having them review my paints has been such a thrill. Because I mean, I subscribed to them for years, before I ever started selling paint. So it's I sort of feel like I'm, meeting celebrities. There was also, speaking of celebrities, there was also a review that, yikes, I'm making a mess of this one. That Jane Blundell in Australia did. She doesn't do YouTube, but she did a blog review where she swatched out all the paints. She had contacted me, I guess it's been maybe 6 weeks ago, and I was able to send her a dot chart, which hopefully will be coming to customers. Right now, they're not available yet, but I was able to send her a dot chart, and she was able to swatch out all the paints and did a review of them, and that was amazing. She was one of the first people that I found when I started watercolor to try to come up with a limited palette. So that was really fun. I'm just going to clean this up. I can't believe what these paints look like in this palette. They're so pretty. You prefer the pans? You know, Leo, is that how you say your name? Leo? I'm Cleo. Okay. Cleo, you know, that completely resonates with me. I have learned, when I first started with the tubes, because I loved the pans so much, I wasn't overjoyed with the tubes. I think for me, it took getting them dried in pans before I enjoyed them. But I love the pans so much that it would be hard for me to like anything more, just because obviously I loved them, or I wouldn't have gone through all the trouble of bringing them to the States. But yeah, I totally am tracking with what you're saying, because I felt the same way initially with the tubes. But once they dried in pans, they still behave a little differently than the pans, the tube paints do, but I like them. I use them probably more now. Lynn, you're right. Jane has what she calls the ultimate mixing set, I think, or mixing palette, which is actually, the funny thing is that when I first started watercoloring, my husband, I used that as my wish list. And so I had all of her colors, and my husband had a lot of business in Seattle, and he would go to the Daniel Smith store, which is an amazing store, by the way, and bring back Daniel Smith paints, and we chipped away at that ultimate list or whatever. Now they have them in, they have the half pan sets that have all of those colors. But she is such a huge expert in the field when it comes to swatching and color mixing and all of that. The Daniel Smith palette is so cute, Jan. Is that what you're saying? Just Cleo. Okay. Next we have ultramarine blue, which is, would be in my top 3. Hey, Steve, we were just talking about you. Were your ears burning? Thanks for tuning in. I was just talking about the difference that you mentioned in your review about the tube paints versus pan paints. And I was sharing my swatches that I shared with you about how they're different. I am just now kind of coming up for air after after the whirlwind that the weekend was after your review, Steve. I really appreciate it. Oh, thanks. How did you remove the paint rack from your palette? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll talk about that. You know, as I can't recommend that you do it just because, you know, you may break your palette, Jan. But for me, it was a way for me to get 55 paints in here. And what I did was I just took a small screwdriver and I pried up the rails. And it did, you know, it did bend them up a little bit, but I had some pallets that had been damaged in shipping from Poland. And so I couldn't sell them. And so, you know, I didn't have as much to lose. I have asked the company, and I just heard back today, if they had pallets without rails, and they do not. But I have a couple other ideas. So that I'm going to try for that. But if you want to take a chance and do that, that's how I did it. Oh, the little round palette. How did I remove the paint rack from your palette? I don't think I understand the question, Jan. I'm sorry. This was the tin that the palette came in, and it just is loose. It's not it's loose in there. Okay, so that was ultramarine blue, and next we have mineral violet, which is this color. It's a little thicker, you can see. So I'm going to use my pen and kind of spread it out a little bit. Oh, good. Thanks, Jan. Okay, so the next question, or the next color we have is heliocerulean, which is not actually cerulean. It's a phthalo, but it's a really good, cool color. Rosemary, in the tin, you get, well, there with her Kickstarter, she had different tiers. So some tiers you could just get this with this little palette with 37 wells, or you could get just the mixing palette. But they also had an option where you could get the full set. And so in that case, I got this and this, and they stack like so, you can see. And then they fit into the tin. And then within the tin, she also included some felt pieces that we talked about, and then like a little piece of her artwork printed. And these little swatch sheets that have bees on one side and then the swatch on the other. But this is kind of just like a smooth cardstock. And so I wanted to use cotton paper. I'm using bee cotton paper, which I think is ironic since there's a bee on the palette. And I'm using paints with honey, which bees. So I just thought it was kind of funny. But what I did was I made on my Cricut cutting machine, I made a little template so that I could just trace around it. I hope that answers your question. So next we are on, let's see, that was Helio Cerulean. Next we're on 26 Ultramarine Violet. And I believe this is a multi-pigment paint. Yes, this has PV16 and PV29. So the manganese, I think the manganese violet and ultramarine blue. Just pop that. I'm just going to look and see if I could hold this up so that you at an angle so you can see how it levels. Not sure if that camera is picking that up, but it's pretty neat. Can you guys hear my clock in the background? Is that bothering anybody? You make your color charts with bee paper. It is an amazing value, Steve. I love that paper, and I have found that it actually has made me freer as a painter because I'm not so worried about wasting it, if that makes any sense. I think sometimes things get kind of precious for me for some reason, that I have a hard time actually using my supplies, and that's been really helpful. Excuse me, got this kind of lingering cough. Welcome back, Patty. Let me know if the clock is bothering you guys. I noticed it in one of my streams, and so I can move it into the other room. Next we have Cobalt Blue Pale, which is this color, which I really love. You hear it, but it doesn't bother me. Okay, well, I'll leave it up, but if it does bother somebody, please let me know, because I'm new to all of this, so I'm just trying to learn and improve, and just let me know. So Cobalt Blue Pale. It's like a relaxing metronome. Okay. And next we have Indian Throne Blue. Which is number 34. This is PB60. And it's this color right here. I've lost my spatula. Oh, there it is. I know, Steve, I agree. It's such a huge staple because, you can make it almost indigo, but lighter, it's a great color. And it's a stable pigment. It's very light fast. I cannot get over what these paints look like in this palette. It's just so shiny. Okay, now we're moving on to greens, to this pie right here. And so this color is number 39, which is permanent green. I'm not sure why I'm trying to fill this left-handed. Probably not the best idea. Next, we have one of my favorites, which is Cobalt Turquoise, which is this one right here. Just kind of a bluish. Getting a little faster, maybe. Let's see. I've got to be able to read my writing. I believe this is Cobalt Green Pale. It's number 41. Next, we have Indigo, which is not a green, obviously, but it was kind of close to this Indian Throne blue. So I put it in this pie. Patty, you've been traveling quite a bit, haven't you? You haven't been able to stream for a long time. I've missed it. I love your streams. They make me, I laugh so hard when I watch your streams. Oh my goodness, you're so funny. Let me turn off my phone. That was Indigo. Me too, Lynn. I know she and I started watching her streams. Well, I wasn't ever able to catch them live when she was on Ustream, but I would watch the playbacks when she would post them on YouTube and just thought they were hilarious. And then I watched Lindsay from the Freakle Crafter and Steve from Mind of Watercolor. Those were YouTubers that I've followed for years. And so it's been so much fun to get to know them through these paints. Next, I have Phthalo Green, number 42. This is a staple. This is actually one that is a pigment that I think, what is it, PG7, I want to say. Yeah, PG7, that Jane Blundell recommends in her ultimate mixing palette. Got a little too much. I'm trying, like, it's hard for you guys to see, but for me, I can see when it's kind of domed over. And so I don't know that that's going to be the best thing for these paints with the way this palette is. So I'm going to just scoop a little bit of it out. There we go. That's better. All right, I'm going to finish this last screen, and then I'm going to catch up on chat. This is Cobalt Green Deep. And again, you would not need all of these greens. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's right. You're going to New York City, Patty. That'll be so much fun. I hope you have it. I really wanted to take that class, but we're going to California during that same period, and so I'm not able to go. It'll be great to see you stream. Cleo, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you checking out my channel. Hi, Chris. I think I missed you. I didn't see you come in. Thanks so much for joining. Oh, I'm glad Xandra's going to be able to meet you. That's right before her surgery, right? That'll be really good for her. I'm going to scoop a little of this Cobalt Green Deep out. It's just a little domed. That little spatula has kind of become a handy tool. It's funny. Okay, so that pie is over, or that pie is finished. So now we're getting into the earth tones, which I love the earth tone. I'm not usually an earth tone person, but I love this line that they have. So number 50, which is right here, is yellow ochre. It's a great color. Oh, Chris, thanks so much. I'm glad you like them. Do you have the pans or the tubes? Are you in the US? So this is the yellow ochre, and I'm just going to go back to filling, and I'll check the chat in a second. People who stream all the time, like Patty and Xandra and some other people, they make it look so easy to be able to do what they're doing and follow chat and comment, and it's I think I'm on the upside of that learning curve. Next, we have 53, which is burnt sienna, which is a little weak. I would say that the red ochre would be a good, if you wanted something that was a little stronger, might be a good substitute. I like them both, so I have them both, but the burnt sienna I think is a little weak. Oh, you bought them in Poland. That's awesome. What part of Ukraine? We were in Kharkov right before we went to Poland the first time that I found these paints. Love Ukraine. Okay, near Kiev. We didn't make it there. We were just in Kharkov. We were with a friend. So this is 54, which is red ochre, which is a great color. This is, I think, PR 101. Yep. Oh, cool. So next we have chromium oxide green. This is, I think, Lindsay's least favorite color. I don't mind it, but I put it in the earth tones just because it was next to this section over here. So. I don't know, Rosemary. I found it on Amazon. I can try to link it when I'm done with the stream. I'll go through and try to link it. It came in a set of multiples. I bought it because I was doing some medicine compounding. And it came in a set, and so then I only needed one for that. And so, of course, seems like a lot of tools find their way into my studio. But I didn't know I liked it for this, but apparently I do because I've been using it a lot. Next, we have Mars Bordeaux. I saw that same video, Rosemary. In fact, yeah, she painted those leaves with it, and they're just stunning. And I saw them when I was there streaming, and they're stunning in real life. You know what? I think I want to switch this around and put 55 in this well instead of this well. I'm going to switch the Potter's Pink and the Mars Bordeaux. So. And next we have Potter's Pink, and this is a color that kind of went viral when Lindsay mentioned it. She really liked it. I love this color, and I love it in particular with the Mars Bordeaux. They look really good next to each other. We are on the last pie. So next we have brown matter, and this is a unique pigment. It's PBR 25, and there aren't too many companies that actually carry this pigment. I had never heard of it before, but I like it. It is this color right there. Next, we have burnt umber. Sure, Steve. Yeah. Yeah, I'll send that to you today. And I'll put it in the show notes. This one is doming a little bit, so I'm going to have to take some of it out. But yeah, the thing about this palette knife is it will fit into the tube itself. Can you see that? How it goes all the way in? It's pretty clever. I love it when tools that are not designed for art supplies can be used. I think it's so fun. So I've made a mess with this one. You can see it's got a drip, so I'm just going to clean that up. I did that well. See that? Just stuck my finger in that paint. All right. I feel like this is going from bad to worse. Let me get a Q-tip. It's always when it's the last one or towards the last one. I don't know what kind of Murphy's Law that is. It seems like when I near the end of something, I tend to make mistakes. I love how this palette feels in your hand. Let's see. You can see. It's just so cool. She did such a good job designing this. And I know, one thing that people will say is that it's, the wells are too tiny for brush care, that this isn't going to be good for your brushes. And you certainly would want to use care and maybe not use an expensive brush. But I just love it. Another trick that I did, which isn't unique to me, I know other people probably have done this, is that I've taken a piece of shrink wrap and put it on my brush, and that way I have more space that's not going to get water in between the ferrule and the handle. So I can stick it in my water all the way and have a healthy, and you know, I get a little more life out of the brush that way. Okay, so that was burns. Next we have, and this is another one where I'm going to swap the colors. We're going to do raw sienna or raw umber in the next well. I had sepia in there before, but just check on. I don't have an affiliate account with Amazon. I wonder if I could make. Chris, I'm going to make you a moderator if that's okay, so that you can add that link. I feel so proud of myself that I just did that. It's the first time. You're my first moderator. Okay, so raw umber. Let me just catch up on chat. I think I missed some things when I had that little mishap. No, Rosemary, you're not alone in that. I have so many tools that it's really silly. Yes, ordering duplicates. Oh my goodness. And then knowing that you bought something, but then you can't find it when you need it. That's the other thing that's not good for me. I'm going to add a little bit more of this raw umber. It's kind of settled down. I cannot get over how these paints pour into these wells. It's just magic. It's the coolest thing. Okay, so next we have sepia, which is Patty's favorite color. And that's actually this one, but I'm going to put it in this well. Yes, Chris, that was about what I paid. And granted, you don't need 7 or 6 of them, but like I have one in the kitchen and I have one in the bathroom and one in. So they're actually pretty helpful tools. I did another drip. At least it's not in another well. It's just on the side. You know, they're smooth. Oh, you're talking about the paints. I was talking about the spatula. Hang on just a second. They are really smooth paints. The spatula has, like, on one end, see how it's got kind of like a little groove divot, and then on the other end it's like one end is convex, the other is concave, but they're very, very similar. I don't know if you can tell that. They are very glossy, yeah. Yeah, I know. I can't quite get over them. I mean, I know that that might sound kind of weird because I'm selling them. So, I want to be careful not to always be pushing. Um, and like I said, I love all paints, but these really are pretty cool. Steve's favorite, Paraline Violet. Steve commented on this that it really does not look at all anything like the Paraline Violet on Daniel Smith, and he is absolutely right. It's kind of a funky color. This one has PR 101 and PB 60 in it, but I like it. I can't, it made my limited limited of 37 colors, but it made the cut. I was debating between that and neutral gray, and I kind of like it. And this is the color swatched out. It's just got a little bit of, it's weird. It's a weird color because like in some lights it's got a red undertone, and then in other lights it's got a blue undertone. But anyway, but when Steve requested it, I thought, oh gosh, I hope it's okay, because it is not like most Paraline Violets at all. It's really not the best name for it. We are ending. We've got one lone well left, which is Payne's Gray. It is this one. It is a good neutral tint, Steve, which is why I'm using it. I really do like it. But it's not a Paraline Violet. One thing that I do when I fill pans, and that I'll do here, hopefully I won't make a huge mess and shake the table. But one thing that I like to do is tap the bottom of the pan once I've filled it, so that any air bubbles or pockets might kind of clean up. So you just kind of tap it, and that really flattens it out significantly. There it is in all its beauty. Not gonna lie, I think that's pretty cool. You made it back in time for the grand finale. And Patty, you missed the sepia filling. I'm glad you made it back. I just think it's just beautiful. I hope it sets up in time for me to take it on Friday. What has PB 15-3 in it, Steve? I missed it. Oh, the Payne's Gray. Yeah. Yeah, but the Payne's Gray in the tube is very different than in the pan. That was when this first kind of clued me in. Was Patty was painting with the pan Payne's Gray and loved it and wanted more. And I don't know if you can see, but they look very different. And the pan Payne's Gray really kind of reminded Patty and me too of Daniel Smith's Lunar Blue, especially when it's lightened up. Whereas the tube paints are definitely a little bluer. They do look like jewels. Isn't it pretty? Crazy as it sounds, I think I would rather have this than jewels, though. I love it. Aren't they different, Rosemary? Yeah, and that's why I messaged Patty before she bought it, because I thought this isn't this isn't going to give her the same result. Diamonds are overrated. Chris, on my Etsy, my tubes start at $6.50 and go up to $8.25, which I know is much more than what you can get them in Poland. They're much less expensive in Poland, but between duty fees and Etsy fees and everything else, shipping, it costs quite a bit. They are 15 milliliters. Yeah, they're big tubes. They're the full size. You can see my hand. I mean, they're pretty big tubes. I mean, they say they're 15 milliliters, but they even seem big for that for me. Oh, thanks, Patty. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, it really is, Steve. I'm so excited that you guys were all here. This was sort of an impromptu thing that I was able to do this morning because I really wanted to get these paints poured so that they can be setting up. But I just love that you guys were here with it. It's been an hour and 30 minutes, and you guys make the time go really fast. So I think I'm going to sign off for now unless anybody has any other questions. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Steve. You guys are great. That's been probably my most exciting thing about starting this business is getting to know all of you. It's just been super fun. So I really, really appreciate it. I'm sorry you don't feel well, Shauna. I hope you feel better soon. All right, I'm going to sign off. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.